Hi, I'm Coach MK, founder of the Fitness Protection Program. I'm a run coach, not a life coach, but we're never really talking about the running. Running is the tool. It's the conduit we use to examine the world we live in, as well as its impact on our own lives and the lives of the people around us. How we react to certain people and to certain stories tells us a lot about how we view ourselves. I'm committed to the thoughtful, intentional exploration of the importance of running so that no one discounts their own badassery, ever. Final note, this podcast is geared towards every runner who won't lose their home, livelihood, or health insurance if they show up to the corral with a hangover. Not that I'm encouraging you to do that, just saying. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Fitness Protection Podcast.
Our weekly session of Ask Away with Coach MK and Coach Sarah. Can't say I'm pointing.
And Coach Sarah.
Oh, there you are.
Amazing Coach Sarah. Sorry, I guess I have to start referring to myself. You know what I should probably do is not say sorry right after I say the amazing Coach Sarah. Do you think that might improve it a little bit?
I'm just saying, don't make me laugh. It hurts too much. It hurts a lot, actually, and that was hilarious.
Oh no!
Yes, you
so
are the amazing Coach Sarah. It's all good. It's worth it to be sitting up and doing this. I miss
you. You know what? I'm really honored. Are we ready to dive into some questions?
Yay! We're first going to take away. Did you remember last week, by the way, there was a question someone had sent me on Messenger, and I think I copied and sent it to you, and I can't remember if you addressed it in last week's broadcast or not.
I don't remember that. No,
about
I don't remember getting a question. No. Let's do the question about the lanes. I did not address it, so do it.
All right. Well, here, I'll read it. Let's hear the Coach Sarah answer. So I apologize for the delay here, but if you guys come at me not through the Ask Coach form, quite frankly, I'm lucky if I remember it and I find it. My husband and I, we just opened up his email for the first time in 2 weeks, and he was like, over under what the emails context going to be, and I'm like 2,200, and he's like, oh my God, no, you get way more email than I do. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you get massively more email than I do, which I find incredibly hard to believe, but evidently is true. So if I get, even my husband acknowledges that I get hella email. So, no shade whatsoever. Just like if the fact that I remembered this thread, picked it up and tossed it over here. Sorry you didn't get the answer last week, but hey, you're getting it. There we go. So the question
Facebook Messenger is kind of a mess. I've had to start telling people not to send me Facebook Messenger too. I know it's
just that it's a tough format, because if you send it in a moment when I can't sit down and respond, it's hard to mark it on as unread.
Exactly.
And even in the business inbox, it's a little bit easier, but then that dings you, right? If I don't answer it in the business inbox, it's like, you took too long to respond. This really hurt your average. We could improve your time if you would buy this software. And I'm like, oh, come on, Facebook, stop. Like, I don't quit messing with my average. I'm good at my job. It shouldn't have to do with like how quickly I can drop everything to respond when someone sends a question through Messenger. But I digress. So I'm getting ready to turn that functionality off both of the websites. But when this comes to Messenger, it's not that we don't like you or that we're mad. It's just one of the least inefficient ways to catch us, because sometimes even on my BlackBerry, and yes, I still use a BlackBerry. I'm twitching over here through a BlackBerry, so BlackBerries do great things. But occasionally, it's a flaw in the Android software that if I acknowledge something or mark it as unread, it will then, in the native application, mark it as read. So I might have something as unread in my phone that is like 22 screens down with all the email that I get. That's marked as unread on my computer. And if I don't sit down at my desktop for 3 days, I might not get that notification to come back to that thing. So that's the flaw with Messenger, and that's why it might take a while to hear back from us if you come at us through Facebook Messenger. So we apologize for that, but that is why it is what it is, and we can't make it better. So the more you can be in the forums and in the Facebook groups, or coming at us with, if you email us, it will get to the queue for the weekend for sure. Messengers is a real good way to get lost. So exactly. The question is, and we're going to test the amazing Coach Sarah. The amazing.
I'm ready.
I love it.
With it.
Hi, Coach. This is in a video, I'm sure, and I am really sorry, but I cannot find the answer to this question. What's the definition of the lanes in rebuild? I've been winging it and want to see if I can change lanes. I also saw you had a video somewhere about printing and comparing plans in Training Peaks. Do I need to upgrade to see them, or can I do that from basic?
Okay, all right. Coach Sarah is ready with an answer. The answer to the first question, what is the deal with the lanes? The deal with the lanes is that one of them has slightly more running than the other one, and this is for rebuild only. Yes, maintain does not have lanes. Rebuild has lane 1 and lane 2. In any workout where lane 1 differs from lane 2, which is going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, I believe, the workout description in Training Peaks is going to tell you the total time for lane 1 versus the total time for lane 2. Okay, so you got to go in Training Peaks, you got to read with both eyes, and that's how you know. So if you're thinking about switching lanes, that tells me you've been messing around and you're thinking about whether you could switch lanes. That tells me you've probably been messing around in lane 1, because I don't think you would be asking whether it's okay to switch from lane 2 to lane 1. You're probably asking about whether it's okay to switch from lane 1 to lane 2. If you have completed a month or more successfully in lane 1 and you want more work, that is the time to switch to lane 2. Do you want more than you're getting in lane 1? Cool, switch to lane 2. Are you in lane 1 and thinking, hey, you know what, this is pretty okay. Maybe I could do more, but I don't want to. Cool, stay in lane 1. Ask yourself what you want to do and listen to the answer with both ears. As far as looking at both versions of the plan, it should all be in the one we don't have like a lane 1 version and a lane 2 version of Rebuild in Training Peaks. It's all Rebuild in Training Peaks. That's what it is. You got to read the workout descriptions with both eyes in order to know how long you go for lane 1 versus how long you go for lane 2. If you're asking about comparing Rebuild and Maintain, I believe that you can get a printable view of a given week in the basic version of Training Peaks. You have to, that's something that you have to just like go in and ask to print, and it should give you sort of a printable view in like a PDF. I think you can only do that with 1 week at a time, though, which it's not the best alternative, and that's why we tried it. It is a little painful. That's why we try to keep their descriptions fairly brief so that it doesn't totally overload your screen. But that's how that's a good way to compare Maintain to Rebuild. Rebuild, though, there's no need to do that. All you need to do is click on each individual workout and read what it says to do for lane 1 versus what it says to do for lane 2. How did I do, Coach MK? Was I amazing enough for you?
Perfect. I loved it. It was great. The only thing I would add to that is it's shaming to live in the should. Should is a shame word, and we don't use shame words around here. So there is nothing that says, well, I've been lane 1 for 3 months now. I really should be in lane 2. Cut that thought off at the should. Cut it off at the should, because there is no should here. You do what you need to do, get what you need to get when you're ready for more work. That's what lane 2 is for. If you're ready for more work from lane 2, that's what Maintain is for. The leap from week 4 of lane 2 and week 1 of Maintain is tiny. The leap from week 4 lane 2 Rebuild and week 4 Maintain is huge. So once we get in Maintain, I give you some instructions on how to approach each week, because jumping all the way into week 4 in the first week can be really, really intimidating, but that's not what we intend for you to do. It's all a process of meeting your body where it's at, finding more work and getting more work when you're ready and you need more work, but not, I think I should be doing more than what I'm doing right now. Do or do not, there is no should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is never any should. And in fact, I have started to see this crop up in other people's, I think, very excellent advice columns and other sources of great thought on the internet. There's an advice column that I really love called Captain Awkward, and I shared an excerpt from a post of hers earlier this week in Rebuild and Maintain. She said, and I quote, though not directly, and I paraphrase. She said, and I paraphrase, when I get a question like this, and this is a question about relationships, I usually look for the word should, and that's where I get my first clue as to where the answer begins. And I was like, Coach MK says that! It is so true, though. It's so true. And we do not use that word around here. It is, what do you want? What do you want to do?
Yeah. Because if you're coming in to maintain and you need more work from that, I am totally happy to talk to you. But your name probably rhymes with Shmooly, and you have an ultra coming up really soon. Because I gotta say, I don't have a lot of one-on-one clients, and I'm not taking on more at the moment. I just don't have the bandwidth to do it well. And there are periods when I wouldn't say I go dark, but the client would probably describe it that way. Like, she just wasn't, and it's easy, like in the past few weeks, like, oh, she's with her family, they're on vacation, she has a cancer scare, she had whatever, and it's probably easy to sit back and think like I've checked out, and I'm never entirely checked out. This is why I get so many emails all the time. But there had been, in this particular instance, and this happens a lot, I'm waiting for something. I know what I want to say, but I'm waiting for the opportunity to say it, and that has to come from the client, because if I introduce it, it becomes a should do, right? But when I'm waiting for that cue in the client log of a day where in this particular case, it was a day where Shmooly was like, oh, sorry, I got a little carried away on the downhill with in a workout that's called Cautious Downhill Surges. And that was the moment I'd really been waiting for, because the past few times she'd done this workout, she had been to the letter and been very cautious in her approach. This time she fucking flew, and I'm like, here we go. Here's everything I have to say about that, and I've been wanting to say for weeks but didn't want to push you sooner. So this is an observation without judgment when I say that you've been very conservative, and that observationally, like, every choice you've ever made is the right one. What now that you went out and you chose to have a little fun with it, I want to introduce this idea of seeing what you can do on race day, because you've never really done it before. You've been playing conservative and smart for a really long time, and really, what's the worst that can happen? So it's going to open up the door for a couple more interesting conversations that we can have in the final few weeks before this race, which I gotta admit I am super excited about, because that moment where, I mean, I get tingly just like I'm sitting here with cold chills with someone else's performance. These are the moments that I live for. These are the moments that really make all of this so exciting and so cool. I'm less worried about like the client thinking like, she isn't earning her money. Not that this person would approach that this way anyway, because one-on-one training isn't cheap, but it's knowing the person well enough to know, like, if I say this now, it's a bad coaching cue. That's not going to lead to the outcome, because it'll be my voice in their head saying, well, you really should, and everybody has enough of that, as opposed to the desire coming from here of, I think I could, and I'm like, yes, which is where we're at right now. So I yesed so hard when I got that email, I hurt my stitches, and it was awesome. So we're gonna take it. So it was a great day. It was despite being in bed with my fabulous earrings and my sparkly shoes, I got some sparkling emails too, and that made it a really amazing day. Thank you for being a part of that, Shmooly. No pressure.
Yay, Shmooly!
Woohoo! So you want to take the rebuild questions, Coach Sarah?
Let's do it. I'm so excited to take the rebuild questions. We have 4 questions in rebuild.
Question number 1: can I move workouts around? I work a 14-hour shift every second Tuesday and need to move my run to Thursday on that day. Is this okay?
Yes! The short answer is yes! So the answer is yes, because, oh my god, that's a long fucking shift, and you're amazing, and all I want for you to do is get the work done and feel good about it, and not be like, I did the run on the wrong day, and now I'm sad. Then no, there's none of that. If on those weeks that you have that shift, you take good care of yourself on that day, you make sure you're getting enough rest, and the Thursday is your choice day, okay? So Thursday is there in order to kind of fill in a little bit for when other days maybe didn't cooperate with you quite as much. That's one of the functions of Thursday. Thursday is also a recovery day. And since Wednesday is a slightly harder workout, I would not want you doing a hard workout the day after Wednesday, which is Thursday. That I would not be so thrilled about. But the Tuesday workout in Rebuild and in Maintain is a slightly easier workout, which means that, yes, of course you can do it on Thursday if that's what works for your schedule. I also want you to feel total permission to use Thursday as a chill out and rest day, because, oh my god, a 14-hour shift, that probably takes a little while to recover from. Listen to your body, do what you want to do. I love that someone who's working a 14-hour shift every second Tuesday is running and wants to put in all the workouts. That makes me really, really happy. I want that person to do what they need to do to be happy and feel good and not what I don't want. Okay, here's what I don't want. What I don't want is for you to work a 14-hour shift on Tuesday, then do the workout on Wednesday, and then wake up on Thursday and you're fucking tired because 14-hour shift on Tuesday, hard workout on Wednesday. You wake up on Thursday, you're like, ugh, I really should do this workout. No. If that's how you feel on Thursday, then what you should do on that Thursday is just rest and recover, and then don't worry about it. And the following week, reassess. No, just because you do something in one given week does not mean that that's what you have to do every week. So let it be a true your choice day, and really be real with yourself about what your body needs.
Just to put it in terms that tend to stick in people's brains because words can do that this day and age, think of it as permission rather than a mandate. People don't like mandates very much, if we all remember. And it's easy to be like, oh, if I have to do this, well, F you know. And then it becomes a thing. I shouldn't have to. Versus, so if you feel good, great. You've got permission to go do the workout you didn't do on Tuesday. If you don't, whatever, we don't make our friends, keep moving forward. Every choice you make is the right one, and because only you really know what's going on. And frankly, missing a workout here and there doesn't impact the outcome unless because we're not in a training cycle with the clock ticking in a limited amount of time, which means limited amount of improvements that we can make between here and race day. And when you take all that pressure off, all you really got to do is keep going, and that's really way easier. And then you look back and see not in a very nihilistic, nothing really matters, but rather the things that we worry about are usually the wrong things. You're good either way, girl. The only concern would be if you you should yourself into a workout on Thursday that you don't need to do when you don't feel it, because that would mean you had a hard workout on Wednesday, then you ran on Thursday when you were tired. Friday had a workout, Saturday you had a long run, so by the time Sunday comes around, you aren't just tired, you're dead tired. So this becomes the new MO where you're overloaded and under recovered. So just watching out for that overload, and you know it by feeling and you know it by attitude. And sometimes we can stave that off just by electing not to run once in a while. Kind of want to in the first place. Pay attention to that. That's not you being a child, that's you being an adult.
That's you listening to your body and being willing to really listen to what it says. And listening to your body, we know, is the most advanced thing you can do.
In super duper feminist terms, we call it the infantilization of women, where a woman says, I'm in pain, and a doctor or someone else no, you're not. Or it's this hurts. It shouldn't. Just try harder. Don't be a girl about it. We have this way of saying no, little 43-year-old girl who is actually an attorney or is working at the border right now. You have no idea what your body feels because you're kind of a wuss, or you just don't have good judgment, a good assessment of your body. So we've been taught to not trust our gut. And I'm here to validate and give all of you permission and be yeah, you tired? Yes, you are. Take the day off. You don't feel good? Cool. Stop for a bit. If that is the only purpose I serve in your life, let me serve it for as many people as possible. I really want to get to that 5 million served, just like McDonald's. I'm going to give all y'all permission to supersize it when it comes to relaxation, because you know when you need it. Don't second guess it. You're probably not being a wuss by choosing to sleep in a little bit later on a day when you've had a 14-hour shift the day before, or not do the run when you've had a 14-hour shift the day before. Trust your gut. Your gut's great. So are you. And I love all of you. Sorry to interrupt you, Coach Sarah. Ready for the next question?
That was a perfect addition. I'm ready. Yes, do it.
Can I add strength programs to my run? Otherwise, I tend to skip it. If I do, should I do it before or after my run?
So I wasn't sure how to interpret this question exactly, and what I think the person means is can I attach the assigned strength and rebuild directly to the okay, it means one of two things. It means can I attach directly assigned strength and rebuild to the run, do them right next to each other, or it means can I add other strength that is not the strength assigned and rebuild to my run? I think it's the first one, but I'm going to try to answer both. If indeed it is the first one, can I attach the strength to my run? Can I do them both can I do them both together, one after the other? The answer is yes, absolutely. That is mostly what I do, because while I'm still sweaty, while I'm still in my workout clothes. I want to get it all done. I want to maximize the production value of that shower. That shower is my one shower, and I want to get the whole job done. So I really like it when I can do the strength right after the run. That is always fine. And here's so the question is, should I do it before or after the run? This is a situation where there is no should. There is, which one do you want to do? Which one are you more likely to always do? Which one is more likely to happen because you like it better? Whatever one it is, that's what you should do. If you know that doing it beforehand is going to make you feel good because, okay, it's done, it's over with, now I can just go enjoy my run and not have to worry about strength later, cool, do it beforehand. I used to do that, I want to say 2 training cycles ago. That was my MO every single day, and it worked really well for me. Currently, I almost always do it after rather than before, and right now that is working really well for me. That's just where I'm at right now, and I try not to second guess it too much. I do not know if there is necessarily an optimal way to do it, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is that it gets done. If the question is, can I add different strength besides the assigned strength for rebuild to my run, that is a little bit more complicated, and it really depends what the strength is. So if what you mean by my strength program is like this other thing that you have been doing that is not part of our program, my working assumption is going to be that it is probably challenging and it's going to wear you out a little bit. And so in that case, I would ask you to, if you really need to do it and it really makes you feel good to do it, please do it on the days when you have harder runs. Do not do it on the days that are earmarked for recovery. That would be Tuesday, that would be Thursday, that would be Sunday. And same thing applies. Essentially, do it when you know it is not going to compromise the run getting done. So if that means before, if that means after, just make sure you're doing the run as written one way or the other. And be really, really, really conscientious, please, about getting the recovery days in and leaving them as recovery days and not loading them up with a strength program that takes away the recovery aspect.
I haven't heard anything you said since you said maximizing the production value of my shower, and I was like, sure. That was amazing.
Coach Sarah Business School is in session.
The amazing Coach Sarah. You have earned that moniker. I'm just going to have to retitle all of this The Amazing Coach Sarah Speaks. So good.
Oh, gosh. I don't even know where that came from, but that is 100% how I view my showers. What am I getting out of this shower? Am I maximizing it?
What am I going to get?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That is all I have to say about that. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think that was amazing. I didn't hear anything you said anyway, so I've been trying not to dive here. That was so great. Okay. Oh, what do I need to get? Not hemorrhaged.
Please don't bust your stitches. I'm going to feel so bad.
Oh my God. What's that being so awesome?
Just like I said to Ross, deep breaths.
So awesome. Oh my God. Oh, okay. Serious. I'm not anywhere close to racing, but I'm curious. What does recovery after a half marathon look like? Is it different with the perpetual training with FPP?
That is a great question. And not being anywhere close to racing is an awesome place to be. It is awesome to just be like, hey, I'm doing what I need to do right now, and racing is not what I need. I know that feeling. I have been there, and that is a great place to inhabit. Recovery from a half marathon, the formula that we have given in the past is roughly 3.5 days of recovery, total recovery, for each hour that you spent at or above race effort. I guess at race effort is probably a better way to say that. What's above race effort? I don't fucking want to know. So that, depending on how long you were out there working really hard, that's what's going to determine how long you need to recover. But really, that is kind of a rule of thumb. That's a place to start a conversation about how long you should recover. You need to really start with a few days completely off. And if you were out there for more than an hour, 3 days completely off is a good place to start with that. And then kind of start to listen to how your body feels, listen to what you really want to do, and start with very, very slow, easy recovery runs with a really low heart rate, which will be hard to do. It is hard to keep your heart rate down when you're recovering from a big race, and the willingness of your heart rate to stay really, really low is a sign that if your heart rate is absolutely refusing to stay below 130, let's say, when you feel like maybe you're in the zone where you could be starting to run again and your heart rate's all over the place, that's a good indication that you might need to take a little bit longer. Everybody is different. We start from that rule because people like hard concrete numbers, and then it's a discussion, right? It's kind of a day by day discussion.
Totally.
Yeah. What else would you like to say about that?
I mean, all I would add is that in my experience, you recover a lot faster because you're coming into each half marathon way more prepared than you probably have been in the past. And the reason for that, I say very gently, is that people tend to enter training programs only with the express intent of racing, and all they're focused on is the race. They're not thinking about the preparation involved, or they're thinking about the finish time. They're not thinking about getting their body ready to move at race effort continuously for the duration. I think you'll find that you recover a lot faster. People tend to be sore for several weeks when they are not in the perpetual training or perpetual running mindset. I mean, they say they never really stop, but everybody totally stops. It's totally fine. So I think you'll find you recover faster for the sole reason that you've had this running habit longer than ever before. So racing, the hard is not so hard and the recovery is not so long, and over time it's not like the experience is flat. You're just not having to reach as hard. Like the highs are not quite as high and the lows are not quite as low, and it makes it easier to hang in the game.
And you will feel the difference. You'll really feel the difference.
Totally. So last question, rebuild. I have a crazy dream race, finger quotes. I want to have a 1 mile loop course where friends and family can do a loop with me on my birthday, either physically or talking on the phone. This better not be Susan. I hope you're not friends with Susan, whoever wrote this. And I want to be able to go for as long as there are people wanting to do it with me. Is this bonkers? No, not bonkers. I've heard stranger from Susan. Even.
I love this.
This doesn't even register. Sorry. Would I need to be in 3 days at the fair shape to accomplish it?
So, the answer to that last question is probably a little bit more complicated than you think, because what does it mean to be in 3 days at the fair shape? It can mean different things for different people, and it all depends on what you need to get. So first of all, I completely agree with MK. This is not bonkers. This is actually adorable, and I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean that in like an I love this, and I love that you want to do it, and it makes me really happy, and it gives me the touchy-feely, warm fuzzies to think about it. Like you running around a loop with all your friends and family and people on the phone. That's amazing.
Like, I want to participate and live stream it and, like, send Sarah down there to do it.
Me too. Oh, my God. Me too. That sounds so great. 3 days of the fair shape. I mean, that really all depends on what is – like, do you have a number of loops in mind? That's kind of important to know. There was an interesting moment at 3 days of the fair when I was jogging around the loop with Susan, and she was starting to fret a little bit about whether she was going to make 50 miles before midnight. And we were all kind of like, well, Susan, you can keep going. Like, if it's 12:01, does it really matter? And she was kind of like, yeah, it actually really does. Like, that mattered to her, and she was listening to the fact that it mattered to her, and she knew that, like, that was a meaningful number to her. Getting to 50 miles before midnight was meaningful, and that's what she needed to do in order to feel good. And I think it is so important to listen to what you really want and say, like, okay, I do really want this, and I'm not going to brush it off and say, like, well, I should want this other thing. No. You want what you want. And so do you need to be in the shape that it would take you to get what you want out of this, I think is the answer. So let's talk about it some more. We've hopefully got plenty of time. You're making it sound like correctly, you're thinking about this as something pretty far in the future. So let's think about what would the amazing, ideal, heart-filling version of this look like?
because you ask if you need to be 3 days at the fair shape, there's something very important about 3 days at the fair that I need to point out. And that's, if we're going to do this, then I would say that 3 days at the fair rules need to apply. Remember, when I showed up, I was like, what are you guys doing? Get out of the sun. You're sunburnt, you're heat tired, like this, if ever, because you can leave the course, take a nap, and come back. Now is the time to do that and come back when the worst part of the heat of the day is over and it's cooling off. Like, do that. Like, I would have been, if I had been there earlier, I would have made everyone get off the course and nap from like 2 o'clock until maybe 6, and then be like, now get back out there and keep going. You're going to have more juice than if you wait until you're completely exhausted, walk around in the sun for hours, and then wish that you had napped sooner. You know what I mean? So it's being strategic about your time. It's a very different type of 24-hour event. It's one that you can stop and start with no one really caring that you've jumped out or minding when you've come back in. So if we're going to do this, like, then let's say, you know, because this person, I'm always hesitant to say names out loud, but this person I know lives in Texas, and the person who asked this question. So if we're going to do this in Texas, then I think that, again, some of those 3 days at the fair rules would have to apply. Then we could be cooking with Crisco and say, you know what, part one, it's a 24-hour race, and part one of the race goes from 6 in the morning, because I've got friends on the East Coast and family in Paris or whatever, and we'll continue until 11, and then take a break for Australia to wake up, and then I'll start again when they come online at like 3 in the afternoon. Or something like that. Like, if we really got people involved, this could be a super duper fun thing, but we don't want to exhaust you in the process, because you'd be surprised how an idea like this can snowball. It's because it's a really great idea. So no, you don't have to be in 3 days at the fair shape. We just need to be really cautious about the parameters that we throw out there, because it's not about needing to move. Like, when you say let's do this and it sounds great, you might not be counting on needing to move continuously for 24 hours, and that could really easily happen. So let's talk more about the infrastructure than we do your fitness level.
Yep, agreed. But this sounds really cool, and I'm excited about it. I can't wait to hear more. Yay!
So yeah, reach out. We want to talk more about this, for sure. And that's it for Rebuild.
That's it for Rebuild. All right, let's turn the tables, and I will ask you the maintain questions. Hi, a couple days ago, Coach MK did a Twitch video on the relationship between your easy effort pace and your 10K pace and setting realistic goals. I really appreciated the idea that my easy effort times 26.2 is likely the worst case scenario. I have 2 questions. My first question is about how strength affects the easy effort, and is there anything I can do in the last few weeks before the 10-week ramp for a marathon? And my second question is about 5K pace. I used the pace for my PR 5K in December, about 9:30, which is more like 3.5 minutes faster than my easy effort, because my easy effort is faster than it was back in December. And am I making myself work too hard, or does it even matter? I'm kind of expecting the answer is that it doesn't matter as long as I feel good about it. For reference, my current easy effort is around 13 minutes per mile. And before I go, Coach Sarah, great job going solo last week. Thank you so much. That's really nice. And Coach MK, keep healing.
Thank you.
Yay!
All right, so the first question, luckily I have the question in front of me, because I would not remember all of that with my brain where it is right now. So how strength affects easy effort pace. This is why I've said it before. I've been quite consistent and clear about it. Strength is the most important thing you can do from quote unquote improvement in easy effort pace. It is the most potent. It is the biggest lever you can pull to get the biggest adjustment. If that is the one place you must, and the only place you're going to be happy from seeing improvement. Because some people in the past, in previous training cycles, have been really stressed out about, like, I want to get better, but no, I don't want to do the strength. I'm like, well, if you want to get better, then you have to do the strength. Like, you need to suck it up and accept that with the parameters that you have set for success in this limited time period that we have together, you cannot afford to avoid strength and reach your goal. And it's not a flaw of the plan. It's a flaw of understanding how the human body works. And that same logic still holds here. There is nothing more effective than strength when it comes to getting quote unquote better or faster. So if lowering your easy effort pace is #goals for you, we will be rolling out an additional program. It was supposed to go live in beta form last month, but this whole cancer scare thing happened, and I realized how overloaded Coach Sarah was, and I didn't want to be like, hey, Coach Sarah, would you mind doing like 15 more minutes of strength every single day in the strength? You want to lead the strength beta? She might have quit. So
I love you guys, but that's gonna have to wait until August 17th.
Either or until high heel, whichever comes first, one of the two.
Right.
So when we get the strength beta going, the strength program is designed to supplement, to try to get you up that curve as quickly as possible, with as little disruption to your life as possible before the 10-week portion, the 10-week marathon reps begins. But yes, strength is the most important thing you can do if you want to, if getting faster. So not to say that like faster is better, but if improvement to you means getting faster and the improvement that you want specifically in the easy effort pace, then yes, strength work outside of running is where we need to focus. And then strength workouts that are centered around running is the next step. But people always want to skip that first step. And then was the second question is about the 5K pace.
5K pace.
Okay, which is 3.5 minutes faster than an easy effort pace. Yeah, that's fine. No, you're not making yourself work too hard. You're making yourself work too hard if you hate the workout and you don't like it, and when it comes up, you're like, I really don't want to do this, or I don't really just like forget it. 5K pace is never good or comfortable. It's incredibly uncomfortable. Remember, like hard, we train not so that hard will feel easy. It's so that what feels hard today becomes easier tomorrow, right? So as your heart has that, like right now running at 140, well, sorry, this is a bad day for me to use an example, but like look at you, Coach Sarah, right? So you right now your easy effort pace, I think on your last run was something like a 940. It was ridiculous. And the last time,
no, that is not correct. I love to think that, but like 1040.
Okay, and what was your marathon pace for your last marathon you ran?
That was the marathon that I ran with a head cold, so it was less than 11 minutes per mile. It was something around. It was probably in the neighborhood of 1040.
But that's my point, right? Like your marathon pace is now your easy effort pace, and that is what we're talking about.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And my easy effort pace also, like I used to really track my easy effort pace very closely, and I honestly just don't really anymore, especially in the summertime. It's like, I don't know, today was great because it was a little bit less humid. It was already 70 degrees, but it was a little bit less humid and there was a little bit of a breeze. It's gonna be totally different on any given day based on tiny little fluctuations in the temperature. What I have noticed though, across the board, talking about 5K pace, is that my 5K pace has dropped steadily over the last 3 months that I've been doing rebuild and maintain strength, even though my easy effort pace has kind of like stayed the same as it has gotten hotter. So my easy effort pace has stayed the same as it's gotten hotter, which I think is also the strength at work. But the thing about the 5K pace is that I am able to find it sooner and hold it longer and not feel like I'm working as hard in those first couple of minutes that I'm doing it. And strength is huge for that.
Yeah. Because I know my biggest frustration when I think about like this detour that I've had to take these past few weeks from my training is that I was just starting to find those efforts again, because it takes a while. Your body is changing when you train, and that's just a function of training. You're training to initiate physiological change, and as it comes, the familiar becomes unfamiliar. So when I'm like, I remember getting out of bed for the first time in a really long time and being like, oh wait, no, I've got to, what does easy effort feel like? What does 12 minutes feel like? There are some neuromuscular patterns that are still very present when I start doing this very familiar thing, and muscle memory as well. But, you know, I was incredibly unfit compared to the last time I had done that same motion. So it takes a while to get totally oriented, comfortable, and feel like you have a good grasp of effort levels each time you're returning to fitness or whenever you're in a new body. And I would absolutely say this time off. You know, it's not to be like 2 weeks off and you're starting from scratch, but 2 weeks off, it's going to take a couple weeks again before I feel like I'm back in command of those effort levels of all the gears that exist above easy effort. And it's fine. They'll come back. It's just more like, oh God, I have to go do that again. All right, whatever. It's fine. Maybe it'll be faster at the end. So finding some way to be positive about like that gap between where I am and where I want to be, and be like, all right, you know what? I've done it before. I've done this 5 times in the past 6 years. I can do it one more time, and then hopefully I won't have to do it again. But yeah, absolutely bearing in mind that if it's like 3.5 minutes faster based on something you did in December, you are probably not making yourself work too hard. If like you had stopped training for like 4 or 5 months and then you come back and you're like, I think, oh yes, this is my 5K pace, or not even 4 or 5 months, let's say it's a year, and then you come back and coach asks which 5K pace, and you hand them your PR 5K pace from December and neglect to mention that you really haven't been running since, that is misrepresentation.
That's a problem. Yeah.
Definitely overtraining. But that's so common. That's what people do. When you ask my 5K pace, and it's a 5K pace. Okay, but you gamed that answer. So based on the information that you've given me here, I don't think you're making yourself work too hard. And if you are, cool, back off. It's summer. It's hot. It's terrible. I know we're all supposed to be outside and be really excited about it, but I am kind of okay having surgery in the middle of the summer where I'm inside on my couch and people are like, oh, I get it.
I think this was Mary Linchevsky in Maintain who was like, I ran this 5K and, I ran 1 mile that was really on pace and I was really excited about that and, it was really tough. And I was like, man, you are so strong. Anyone who chooses to run a 5K in the summer, I take my hat off to you and I applaud you. I know that there are tons of 5Ks in the summer. There's like a 5K every other freaking day. I'm not doing them. That is too hot for me. I'm like, no, thank you. I can't. I don't want to. No, thank you.
Oh my God. Before this happened, my coach was like pushing me. She's like, no, I think you're ready for a half. Go do a half. I'm like, no. She's like, no. You're in a good place. Let's go see what you got. I'm like, no. Ow. I was like, Tia, I love you. You're an amazing coach. I love working with you, but I am not racing in a Colorado summer. She's like, oh, we're going to need something before the fall MK. And she's totally right. And I'm kind of being a baby about it, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to do any of these hot races. They all start at 8 o'clock in the morning.
8 o'clock in the morning? What the hell is with that? Come on. You want me to show up for the race? At least give me 7 o'clock. At least give me 7 o'clock. Don't look at me like that.
So I'm out of the shower, done with my run by 8 in the morning when it's this hot outside. Oh, my God.
Yeah, seriously. Oh my gosh. This coming Thursday night, actually, I'm doing a 5K with Lisa Green, but we're doing it with her daughter Rosie, who's 10. So Rosie's going to set the pace, and dear Lord, I hope that Rosie is as reasonable as I know in my heart that she is. She's an amazingly reasonable child, and that's why I'm agreeing to run a 5K with her on Thursday night.
Oh my God.
There's no other circumstance in which I would do it.
You guys all posted. You might need to go live a little bit with that too.
Okay, next question in Maintain. Could you make a post or form where we can put our fall races? I'm interested to see if others in the group are running the same race or other potential races as look at destination races. Just a thought. Thanks. The answer is yes, we can do that. I will do that in the Facebook groups tomorrow.
Perfect.
I think that's the answer. The answer is yes.
The answer is yes, it shall be done.
Great question. I love it. Okay, next question. I have a quarter marathon race on the calendar for Saturday. Should I substitute this for my long run? Would it be better to run long on Friday or Sunday instead?
Okay. First of all, quarter marathon, that's not something you hear every day. I kind of love that.
I kind of love that too.
It depends. So with the word should always kind of kicks in that there is either you have feelings about it that don't need to exist, or you're asking what's optimal with some goal in mind that isn't mentioned here. So if you are not in or utilizing the 10-week marathon ramp this week, if you're not in that ramp already and you're not entering that ramp like in the next week or so, then sure, go ahead, do the race and don't worry about the long run. Just get right back on it next week. If though, like you've got a marathon coming up, then then we were like, okay, well, we really it would be in your best interests to do the long run try to get the long run in too, depending on how far away the race day actually is. So, because we all know you probably should not be doing a race YOLO in that 10-week marathon ramp. Like, come on, guys, it's 10 weeks long. Work with me here. I've made this as small as I possibly can. Say no in the window. Say no in the window.
This is your chance. This is your chance to have a really good reason to say no to all the summer 5Ks.
If you're not in the 10-week ramp and you've got no other events coming up, then shoot, go for it. No, don't worry about the long run and don't make it up. It's great. That's why we do this. We do this to be sitting like we can race whenever we want. Not saying like I'm never going to be like, yeah, sure, you can do a 5K every weekend and every other half too, because some people I've met people who race way too much. You should not have a race every weekend. That's going to be real. Well, I was shaming to live in the should. That's going to catch up with you really quickly. That's a whole lot of race effort. What I would say for longevity, And for continued improved performance, do it when you feel good and there's a race you care about, show up and do it. And I want to keep you fit enough year round that there's always an option and not stress and pressure that we have to train for it. That it's like, hey, I'm fit enough that running a 10K today is totally an option. I'm going to exercise that option because why not? I feel good. It's here and it's a race I care about and it's only $20 to enter and the t-shirt's cool. There's no reason not to do it when you have the fitness level, and the right doing that race and going out and actually giving it race effort would not be subtracting from a plan that you're in any way. So it doesn't sound like you would be stealing from your training plan to go do this. So I say, yeah, go race it and don't worry about it. But with that, when we change our approach to what we're doing, when you're not only interacting with me in a training cycle with the countdown to a really big event, we have a lot more flexibility and we have a lot more freedom. So I hope that the things that I sound don't seem counter to advice I've given in the past. It's just when I've worked with clients in the past, it's been through a very different lens and a very different funnel. So the way I talk to you guys is a lot similar now to the way I talk to my elites, and it's not because that's better. It's because the only people I have that truly are moving year round are the ones whose health insurance and jobs are contingent upon it. And there's something to say for that consistency of year round and always having a base. Then you can do whatever you want, and there's no pressure ever. So I remember living with that very briefly. I mean, it was not months and months. It was a few weeks while I was exiting a relationship. I lived with a sub-elite runner, and I just remember thinking, like, gosh, if I could be almost as fast as her and not care about getting faster, I could get all my entries for free. I could run with the fast people. I could probably get free shoes. How cool would that be? So I'm looking at this, like, what would have felt like giving up to her was like #goals for man. I never forgot that. Like, you could be, because to be winning and not know it, she was eaten up and really consumed by what she saw as her inability to get faster to break through to the next level. And I saw so much beauty where she was, because I'm like, if you could just turn off the part of you that cares, you could relax and really enjoy where you're at. And I'm sure we are all that person to somebody else in some aspect of our life at one point or another. Like when you and your husband were living off your Harvard stipend, graduate student. Like, how good was your life, Sarah? Oh my God, how good was your life, Tristan?
I mean, he felt bad about it a lot of the time. I mean, if you ask him that question, it's not an easy answer.
Oh no, and I hope he doesn't. And I get that it's sensitive. Like I remember the first few years of my marriage was the first time I'd been, living on another person, and my husband was very clear, we're a partnership, and I'm like, he's like, you are pulling your weight. I wouldn't have my job and my career if you weren't doing what you're doing right now. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not bringing home money, and I've always, all of my jobs have been, even for the company itself, been the revenue generating positions. I've never been an operations person that is just seen as quote unquote overhead. So it's a weird bucket to be in. Everything I do is overhead. And I see how this could go sideways really quickly. If you're like, marriage could truly be hell if you're married to the wrong person who is reminding you that you're overhead, even though you're actually facilitating their family and career too. So I say that not to demean you, Tristan. I just I feel like I learned this little piece of information this afternoon while I was filming another podcast with Coach Sarah. And it's an interesting podcast. You get excited when that comes out later this week, because you learn all kinds of things about Coach Sarah that I did not know at this point. And we're just going to have to call it everything you didn't know about Coach Sarah.
You're welcome, maybe.
Yay!
Yay. But we'll save that for that podcast, because someone has another very important question for you. And I'm sorry, I do not mean to insult the person who asked this question, but I have to laugh at how often this comes up, because it feels like it's the third time someone has asked this. MK,
yes.
What are your thoughts so far on your new Polar?
Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And Polar has not time to deal with this. I'm not paid to say that. I do not intend to. When I built the revenue model for fitness protection, because I'm a student of business. I worked in the business world for a long time.
Thank God somebody is. Oh my God.
I started with a revenue model and projections. And a 27-page spreadsheet. So when all of those 27 pages, there's not a single line item that comes down to partnerships or sponsorships. and I intend for it to stay that way. So when I say I like something, it's because I like something, not because someone sent me something for free and I'm like, hey, I like this enough that I'm going to buy it. I'm going to take the DC Rainmaker. Anything that he likes, he returns, and then we'll buy it with his own money, because the trust that his audience has is how he's built his brand, and I feel very strongly about doing the same. So I really love my Polar. I'm going to do. I have the Vantage V, the orange and the more expensive version. Clearly, I haven't been wearing it. This was like the first sign of real rebellion, when I was like, you know what, I am sick. I might have cancer. I don't know what's going on. Either way, I'm definitely having surgery, and I'm going to have to take some time off, and I'm not going to worry about it. And the first thing I did was I took off. The first thing I did was clean out my shopping cart at J.Crew and Amazon. Because you know what? If it's going to be my last normal vacation, I'm going to wear the swimsuit I want and look good in it. Mission accomplished. And then
I love that swimsuit.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
Amazing swimsuit. And I took off my watch because I'm like, I don't want my activity monitor. I don't want to think about the fitness I'm losing. I don't want to think about what I'm not doing at a time when I can't be doing more, because I was already in a lot of pain, like physical pain, before we had the surgery to take the thing out. So all that just to say that, like, even though I haven't worn it in a bit, I absolutely love it. And when I have come back to fitness in a little bit and have more data in my Polar to work with, I'm going to show you, we're going to do either a live stream or a webcast or something where I kind of walk you through all of the features about it that I really enjoy. But the thing that I like the most, if you are into data visualization, and I very much am, it's called TRIMP. TRIMP is a concept that was invented by Joel Friel, whose training philosophy underpins everything you see in Training Peaks. So if you've seen that Triathlete's Training Bible, that was by Joel Friel, and he had a really great blog out a long time ago. But TRIMP was a measure of cardiovascular strain that was really important as if you were coaching triathletes the way Joel Friel was across multiple sports. So when you see that someone is overtrained, okay, what's it from? The swim, the bike, or the run? It's really hard to tell. TRIMP tells you overall, is this muscular load from the hard workouts or cardiovascular load? Where is the overload coming from, and which levers do I pull back so that this high level world-class Olympic or Ironman triathlete what levers do I pull to keep him or her from going into the overtrained territory so close to race day, and how do I peak them out? So he was a real pioneer in data visualization when it came to the training aspect. And I love you too, Alex Fleming. Thank you. That was very kind. Sorry, I just saw his comment on Twitch. I love my husband so much.
Oh my God, I love it.
He's the original data visualization nerd in the family, and I've kind of listened to him over the years doing what he does as a management consultant, which is mostly building gigantic spreadsheets and present data in different forms to people who work with data a lot but don't see the big picture. He's really great at taking like huge data sets and coming up with like a GIF or a graphic that all of a sudden gives you context into everything you just looked at. So if ever there's a point that I'm kind of good at this now, we're good with Training Peaks. It's because of things that I've heard here at home with him. But I digress. So one of the things that TRIMP score is not something that's easily calculated in Training Peaks that you see. It is something that is calculated for me in a separate Training Peaks product that I have on my desktop and don't use very often because it's just something else I have to remember to open and be at my desktop to use. But it calculates TRIMP overall and individually, and gives me like little warnings when somebody might be getting close to overtrain. Not that I have anyone that I train one-on-one that trains that much, which is why I don't use it as actively as I could. But if you have someone that's working out on average 6 hours a day, all of a sudden TRIMP becomes really, really, really important. They're getting overtrained from what? So TRIMP is not to say like it's the most important measure. I only run. You do a lot. But what Training Peaks does do is it gives me a good aggregate picture of what a person does all the time. So if you're a person who is on your feet for 14-hour shifts, then that when your activity score is abnormally high, the Polar Vantage I don't think the V will do it, but the M will do it, will have something almost like a flag in the system that lets me know that you had a harder than average day from an activity standpoint. So that when you say to me, like, you're really tired, well, was that from your training or was that from what you did when you weren't training? Which is great for me as a coach to have. So all of my clients are not going to be getting this now. I'm quite sure as a result. But if you're one of those people, that's not to say we're in denial, but like sometimes we're just not aware of how much we move or how much we do. That body pump spin yoga triple combo felt really good, but oh my gosh, my trim score is now 900. That's more trim than a week of workouts with recovery in between would generate. And I got that in one day. That's context. That's good to have. And not, but again, these are numbers that I know what they are and I know what they mean and I know what to look for. They're going to be, it's for most people, even if you're a data geek, it's going to be just another graph. So I'm not going to be like, everyone drop what you're doing and go buy this polar. But if you're someone that's into this, and right now, as someone that's having to rebuild my fitness, I was doing a lot. Like I was doing 8 hours of Pilates each week, plus walking a lot with kids, plus hauling around a newborn and that just would not walk. I love HRH, the baby Violet. She's very much a diva. But and then on top of that, like I wasn't accurately measuring my activity, plus all the running, plus running with a couple of my friends around here. I wasn't aware of how much I was doing. Then I got the polar and then I started seeing my trim scores and was like, whoa, gosh. In Training Peaks, if I had opened up that second, because I don't train myself the way I train a lot of my runners, if I had opened up that second platform, my trim probably would have been screaming at me, but there were no red flags coming through the system. I was like, why am I so tired? I shouldn't be overtrained. Because, sometimes we're just not, when it becomes your normal, you're not aware when things aren't abnormal, right? Like lobster in a boiling pot. So that's that one feature alone is why I like the Polar. If you are like, I think I want the Polar Vantage V because of power, I would strongly recommend you get the Stride instead. Stride, STRYD, the Stride Pod. I have one. My athletes bought one for me as a gift when Violet was born, and it's wonderful. And again, it's just another data series that you're going to have to look at, but you need to understand power and its relationship to effort first before go learn Training Peaks before adding power to the mix, because that number is a good guide when you know when it's relevant and how to use it. Otherwise, it's going to be like pace. It's going to be another singular data point, which only tells you things in relation to other data points and how you synthesize all of it together. That's the story, not the perfectly perfect data point. Does that make sense? So if you really want to have power, go get power. Don't, if you want to just justify the purchase, I will help you justify the purchase of this really pretty orange, very expensive watch. At the same time, and it really has blown my mind and been worth every penny. At the same time, if that is out of your price range, I wouldn't say it's more useful than my Polar M430 or my Polar M400, only in the respect that I've been very close to overtrained with all the stuff that I've been doing these past 6 months, and seeing my trim score was what made me not feel so bad about it anymore. It's like, oh, that's a reason, and that reason
that's
is
huge.
Yeah, but I don't know that this would. I can't promise that that trim score will have that same effect on everyone who wears the Polar. It's understanding the numbers, if that makes sense. Which, not to argue both sides. Well, if you don't understand the numbers, it means you're stupid. But I'm really good with math. You can argue it any way you want. Buy the watch if you want the watch. I love the watch. That is why I love the watch. But I still wear the chest strap with it.
Well, we've talked before about, and I think we're going to do this in the next few weeks. We're going to do a webinar with a webcast of MK teaching us a little bit more about Training Peaks, and we're really looking forward to doing that because I know that I definitely have a lot. Like I've learned a lot about coaching and exercise physiology, but you kind of need to take almost a whole separate course on Training Peaks. Like Training Peaks is its own language. It does data in its own way, and I'm really, really excited for MK to get in there and break some of it down for us. So that'll be, look for that in the next several weeks when we get a minute to have a session devoted entirely to it.
And the way that I do things is not necessarily standard, like my understanding of the numbers and my relationship between the numbers. If I were to sit down with a whole bunch of, like I said, the coaches, or someone that just completed Training Peaks University, I'm sure they would take me to town or take me to task for some of the things that I say and some of my perspectives. But my perspective is always filtered through the lens of the client, the athlete, the in-person. And I have a couple of elites, but I have a whole lot of people who aren't, especially this one. So pointing to myself right now. So with that in mind, that what I look at and what I look for is probably not what other coaches look for, or do. I actually had a client say this to me recently, that we worked together one-on-one several years ago, and she made it very clear when she left that she thought I hadn't earned my money. And it was, not a terribly fractious breakup on my end, because I was like, I know that, like, this person, if you have not worked one-on-one with the coach before, you don't understand how much work I do actually do, and how much. And back then, when I was just getting started 5 years ago, how much more work I did per person while I was trying to learn, while I was trying to get my techniques down, while I was, still like super, overly eager to please and to prove my mettle. And it was very satisfying when this person was like, yeah, by the way, I was a real dick to you, and I'm so sorry. I had no idea how much work you did. Why didn't you say anything? I'm like, would you have believed it? Like, no one works harder than I do. Like, you are never going to meet a coach that does the things that I do. I'm the coach I wanted to hire, not the same coach you're going to find out in the market. And it really is true. So just take everything I say, take it with a grain of salt when we do this. When I show you how I use Training Peaks, I'm giving you some of the best practices to keep you motivated moving forward. It's not going to be a lot of the same coaching cues that you would get if you bought the Triathletes Training Bible, written by Joel Friel himself. And if you want to do that and not listen to me, I totally feel you. The man invented the system, but he does not teach people how to coach.
That's right. And coach, like, good information, solid facts, and coaching cues are not always the same thing. In fact,
true.
Coaching cues have to do some work to get the facts to come across and pop in the way that they need to in order to be helpful. So that's where we come in.
I'm thinking of every single person who ever gave me the advice, just be yourself, where we would give it to a whole room. Hey, Wharton students, just be yourself all the time. That's what you have to do to succeed. Just be you. And then I'd be like, hi, my name's MK. And they're like, not you. You don't ever need to be yourself. Ever. Let's talk. I'm going to make a list of all the things you need to not do. You need to not be yourself if you want to make it anywhere. But now, looking back over the context of my life, I'm like, where I'm making a living now and where I feel like I'm making a difference is being 100% MK, even 110% myself all the time. That said, this would not have been the path to success 10 years ago, and the current path today is made possible by my husband, whose job provides health insurance for our family. I hope the day never comes where I need to not be myself again in order to succeed. But really great advice. Be yourself. That looks good now, but it would have been real stupid 10 years ago, and there are plenty of other times when it would have been stupid too. A good coaching cue would have been to sit me down and say, like, okay, you need to be yourself, but don't do this, or this, MK. And it's really obvious when you walk into a room why you're not meant to be a banker, and everyone knows this but you, and it's okay. You don't need banking. Like, these are conversations I wasn't gonna hear and didn't want to have. But I digress. That's the difference between a good advice and good coaching cues. Here we are here to give you both and to reconcile the distance between that good advice, as well as executable cues that will get you closer to what you want to be, so that you can stay really excited about that gap between where you are and where you want to be, and see it as good things to come, not as a deficiency that you have right now.
Woo! And cool work ahead. Cool work. Totally. That will make you feel good on a day-to-day basis.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. We did it. We did all the questions.
All done. Hope everybody feels you are coached, you are loved. Let's go win it the week ahead. And I was going to say, and if you've been listening to the podcast or been listening to this broadcast in podcast form, do subscribe to us on iTunes. The feed can be found on iTunes. If you go to our Instagram account for Fitness Protection LLC, you'll find the link directly to our iTunes page, and you can get these podcasts delivered directly to your player of choice. We were approved for iHeartRadio earlier today. So now, literally, anywhere that you find podcasts, you can find us if you're willing to look. Do take a minute if you're appreciating that podcast to give a huge thank you to our podcast editor who's doing all of this pro bono, and none of this would be possible. None of what we're doing right now would be possible if not for this really amazing person doing a job that she threw at the end of a laundry list of things that she was like, well, I could do this, and I'm like, ugh. And I know this is not her career, and this is probably not really how she wants to be spending her time cleaning up audio and bleeping out my fucks and cleaning up all the crackle, but she does it, and she does it for free, but we could not do it without her because we just don't have, this service is so expensive. So if you like the podcast,
she is so amazing.
Take a minute, please, to thank our editor. She is amazing, and her name is Chrissy.
We love her so much. We would be sitting on our hands waiting with all these amazing thoughts to do a long form podcast. And they would just, where would they be going? They would be like evaporating into thin air.
Making the morning mantra super easy. Adding Sarah to the morning mantra, slightly more challenging. Having two people speak at the same time in different physical locations for a single audio track podcast, really effing hard. There are two layers of production to it. And this is why a lot of podcasts don't last very long, because you run into expenses really quickly. It's more than just having a fancy microphone. It's knowing exactly how to clean up and produce those sound files in the 4-step process required from start to finish. And we have someone doing all of that for us for free right now. And it's about roughly, I did a rough calculation. It's about $2,300 a month worth of work this person is doing for free. So even if you don't love the podcast, love what she is doing, and please, Chrissy, I want you to know how much we love you, and thank you for reaching out that day way back when. I know this isn't what you expected. This is not what you expected at all, and I'm sorry it's taking you down a different path, but this service is so valuable.
It really, really is. I cannot say that enough. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that we're able to do this, and we are able to do this because of you.
Yay! Your coach, your love. Yay. Let's go win it the week.
See you later.